18,000 reasons why Tesla ends up below 720 today. This is the 15th of April 2021. This is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Thanks for joining us once again. If this is your first time, welcome. If you're a repeat visitor, welcome back. We also want to thank our Patreon supporters. Your support is greatly appreciated. If you want trade coaching, special videos, as well as daily analysis on investing and trading Tesla, please consider joining us on Patreon. So we're in an interesting period right now. For the thumbnail for this show, I chose what's called a feeding frenzy of sharks. So I'm sure you're all familiar with chumming, where in order to get sharks to come and feed, they'll throw a bunch of chopped up fish, and the blood in the fish causes all the sharks to come in and they all start attacking whatever's going on there. So I bring up that analogy here because Tesla is an interesting company in that in very short periods of time, you can see a very large move, 10 or 20% in the value of the stock. So even if you're a long holder of the stock, it can be wise to have some idea what's going on a day-to-day basis, because the movement can really affect the value of your shares in a short period. But also, if you're on a longer horizon, it doesn't really impact you, but it's not a bad idea to have a feel for what's going on. The idea would be a lot like the difference between the forest and the trees. You know, if your focus is the general forest over 3-6 months, a year, 2 years, this is somewhat not a big deal. If your focus, though, is shorter, and it can be because of how rapidly the value of the stock can rise and fall, it can be good to sort of be aware and somewhat move in tandem with this. I've been collecting a lot of data points, and my goal from this show is really to try to respond to those data points, because I thought the information that sort of bled out from it was really valuable. So we'll sort of go through item by item. The first thing I wanted to review today is the title of the show is 18,000 Reasons Why Tesla Ends Up with 720 or below today. So I've really wanted to change the show so that we do some basic training, and then we take that basic training and we sort of accelerate it into how it's used to better understand what's going on. So in this case, I'd like to request you whip out your Google browser and type in Yahoo Finance and then Tesla. And once you get to the Yahoo Finance page, in the middle of the page to the right, you'll see a thing that says options. And so when you press on that options button, you're now looking at the what's called the option string. So it lists all the options on Tesla that are available. Now, I specifically would like to ask you to scroll down to what's called 720 calls on Tesla. As of yesterday, that number was 18,000 calls. I also, for giggles, would like to have you look at the line that says 800 calls on Tesla for this week, expiring on Friday. And you'll notice as of yesterday, there were 43,000 of these. So what's happening right now is that we've got a new gentleman that's assisting us with charting, and he has a positive view of where Tesla's going today. And on a longer horizon, I totally agree with that. But in this short horizon right now, there are 43,000 call options on Tesla. And as you look down the string, right now we're kind of headed towards $720 call options for this week. Now, why is this such a big deal? Well, what you want to do is look on that line, and there's a row that's called open interests. which means how many people or how many individuals or institutions hold that call option. And the answer is 18,000 plus as of yesterday. Now, what's kind of happened is these folks, so what's kind of going on here is just like a feeding frenzy for sharks, you have a large number of world-class traders. And there are a number of instruments they can use combined with their own capital and their expertise to kind of move a stock around for a day or two to get a destined outcome. So in this case, one of the destined outcomes that we believe is in play is the fact that as there are large numbers of people who have call options at certain strike prices, the job of these market makers or brilliant individuals is, can we figure out how to drop the stock price below those call strike points? And if we can, we make X amount of money. So as of now, I believe there's no way, unless a bomb hits the United States, that Tesla gets over $800 a share. The reason is because of the 43,000 calls that are there, which means that large institutions make a killing if the stock stays below 800, and they will do everything in their power to make sure that's the case. In fact, if Tesla ended up above 800, there might be some firms declaring bankruptcy because this is such a feeding frenzy for great traders. So this brings me to the question of, well, why is it that 720 is your target? Real simple. If you look at that option string, there are 43,000 calls at 800 level. So there's no doubt that number is one of the highest ever seen by me on any company that I've ever seen in 25 years of trading. So what I see happening now is the lesser sharks or the entities that pull the stock price down are saying, wait a second, we've got them at 750. So meaning the stock price won't go above 750 because there's a decent number of calls there. I think the number was in that 9,000 range that I saw. But the next major strike point that they can make a killing wiping out individuals who own call options is at 720. And if you have a stock price that's only $15 away from perhaps a $300 to $500 million, $1 billion payday for your firm, guess what those guys are going to do? They're going to drop the stock price so that they can make money off of those 720 calls expiring worthless. So when we look at that 18,000 number, that 18,000 number, if you look back over 3 or 4 years of Tesla trading, 18,000 calls is one of the highest numbers of calls ever on the company's stock price. Now we're in a zone where we've got 43,000, no doubt we're going to stay below it. Next week, we have 38,000 calls at $800 a share. So basically what's happening is that where Tesla is currently is bringing world-class sharks in from around the globe who are great traders. And their job is to make money. And so all kinds of interesting things will happen over the next 24 hours. For example, when sharks are feeding, their real target is to sort of wipe out those people, be it other institutions or individuals who are sitting there exposed on those calls. But there's also things that can happen where as they're doing their feeding frenzy, sharks can end up biting each other. And once the blood is in the water on somebody accidentally getting bitten, you can all of a sudden have all these sharks that were feeding on one thing turn around and start feeding on each other. And this is kind of an example. This 43,000 calls, the 18,000 that are there, are not just individuals. It's one firm seeing other firms exposed and now coming in for the kill, exactly like the sharks might. So the other thing that's going on here, and so as the feeding frenzy is occurring, what the point is, it could be let's feed on the let's say sardines. But wait a second, if somebody, i.e. one of the other big firms, is wounded by the feeding frenzy, all of a sudden the sharks could turn their position away from victimizing the individuals or those folks with those call options and turning on each other. So for example, if you have a firm that is heavily exposed to this trading circumstance, and these guys know that that firm is at risk, they could actually turn the feeding frenzy on one of their own firms to help put them out of business on this trade as a way to make money. So all this feeding frenzy activity all of a sudden can create stocks moving in weird directions that are unexpected, despite the fundamentals of the company being great. Has nothing to do with it. Everything to do with the fact that we're in a feeding frenzy. So my argument here would be expect strange moves. So I had a funny experience yesterday, which was, again, we have a new chartist aboard, and he was looking at charts and resistance levels, etc. And this is why I have not focused heavily on charts over time, is that what I've noticed is that if we're in a feeding frenzy, trying to use charts is a good idea because you want more information than less to work with. But the problem that pops up is, now wait a second here, what if there's a feeding frenzy that's going on, has nothing to do with the charts, and you're trying to figure out how to chart it as a way to figure it out? And to some degree, if you wanted to chart on a minute-by-minute basis, hour by hour, you could figure this out probably in terms of how the two might come together. But by stepping back and looking how the feeding frenzy of the sharks of Wall Street work, you get a way better idea how and why things are occurring, and therefore how to conduct yourself in an effective way in this environment. So I would say that, one of the things we've noticed over time is, for example, Tesla stock price was up $10 pre-market. Usually what you see is if you double the pre-market direction of the stock, i.e. up $10, it should end at $20 above where it was. The issue though is when you're in a feeding frenzy with the sharks, all these principles and rules and charts are out the window. Right now, it's just straight war, straight blood in the water, straight how can we destroy the other firm and make a bunch of money at the same time? And we can do that by destroying the other firms. So I kind of wanted to run this by you because part of the game of Tesla, the game of investing, particularly in the short term, a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, is taking the time to go back to the Yahoo Finance page. That information is available in a lot of other ways, by the way. I'm just using Yahoo because I've used it a long time, and if I want to quickly get an update on the status of things, I can just type in those 3 words, go to the options page and just glance at it, and I kind of know what's going on. So frankly, it's not the greatest thing in the world, but it works. So who cares, because I understand how to use it. So I did get a question from one of my viewers regarding last night's show, and he was like, well, wait a second, Greg, how does it affect shares I'm holding in my 401k heading into multiple years, etc.? And the answer is it kind of doesn't, because if you're in for the long haul, you just wait it out, let the company grow, let the money profitably come in. Another idea of this is something that one of our viewers pointed out yesterday. And by the way, please take time to like and subscribe. It's greatly appreciated, makes a big difference for our channel. And so one of our viewers in the 401k space made a comment to me. He said, look, right now I'm trying to scalp Tesla. What is scalping? Well, you'll notice that 2 days ago, Tesla's stock price it kind of opened at about 780, right? If in fact you chose to sell the shares that are in your 401k and then buy back when it's at 720, 725, there are no tax consequences that people not in a 401k would experience. But you get to ride this trend and pick up more money. So in theory, you sell at 780, 785, you buy back in at 715, 720. the stock price runs back up towards 800 again, and then as we're heading out next week and they pin it once more, you know, this goes back down. Now, next week's process is going to be interesting because the 26th, so today or tomorrow would be the 16th, 10 days after the 16th is the 26th, which I believe is Tuesday, a week from this coming Tuesday. So what's happening right now is there are a lot of call options sitting out there pre the announcement of Tesla's numbers. And once those numbers are coming out, it's really unpredictable. It's probably way up that the stock goes. So most people are avoiding doing options during that period because it's very expensive and things could move in very unpredictable ways. So I'm kind of fascinated with this circumstance because scalping it right now is not a bad idea. You could, in this case, the scalping idea, if a stock hits 780, you sell out, goes to 720, you buy back in, goes back to 780, you sell out. You get my drift. You're picking up 5 to 10% for each of those, and you don't have to trade options. You can just trade in and out of the stock. As we're heading towards earnings, I think it's a bad time to to do the scalping because I think we're going to get a nice boost in the stock price, and I think that we'll start to see that from the analyst upgrades as we head into the middle of next week. So how the shark process is going to be very intense next week, and we look forward to keep continuing to cover it as part of this. I wanted to remind you that our channel is what I call a learning channel. We're all sharing ideas, input ideas, etc. in terms of what's going on, and therefore, you know, you don't have to do negative comments. You can go to another channel, and in this case, what we're wanting to do is, who cares where the puck was? We want to know where the puck is going. That way you can manage yourself and make money on that, and it takes the ability to take a risk and sort of collect the data and make a decision in order to be more effective. So I kind of recommend going for it and potentially being wrong, but also showing the logic of how and why and what is working, because you can make a lot more money in anticipation than you can being a Monday morning quarterback. Speaking of which, there is the Monday morning phenomenon that we've noticed a lot, which is Monday and Tuesdays tend to be good days to trade Tesla. So buying Tesla at the nadir on Friday and selling it midday Monday, if you go back over the last year and a half, has proved to be extremely profitable, both on options and on shares. So it might be something to consider. At any rate, I'm looking forward to your comments because those comments influence what we cover. So therefore, I'm definitely looking forward to them. At any rate, this is our health tips for the day. I have some new users and hardcore users, different folks. I'm going to show some photos of it, you know, in future shows, but I'm traveling right now. I'm in a place called Orlando, Florida, and I brought along a bicycle called the Brompton. So I like to stay in shape, don't like running much because impact on knees and backs. So there's something called a Brompton folding bike, and I'd like to encourage you to read about it and then get one, because you get 2 or 3 days to return it if you don't like it. I'd say the only problem I have with it is change out the seat, because that can be a little bit jarring. But it's maybe the best purchase I've ever made in my life. I've had my Brompton for 20 years. I will show you guys what it looks like. The benefit of it is you get good exercise wherever you are. It's small enough to fit in your trunk or on your boat or RV or in a small apartment. And in the old days, we didn't have electricity. So now there are a bunch of people who have electrified the bikes. So now if you really want to go a long distance and not get sweaty, you can just use the electric option and get around that way. But it's a great way to get exercise and do touring of areas on your bike rather than a car, and you get some exercise and sightseeing in the process. Our usual list is, don't forget your 25 leg lifts a day. I may actually do them while we're talking. Also, have started doing a large number of exercises regarding core training. So it's been great in terms of reduction of back pain and strengthening of the core muscles. And so that's been awesome. And that's recommended as well. Don't forget, do not go to bed within 4 hours of eating, minimum 2 to allow the food to digest. Also wanted to encourage you to consider 2-5 or any of the other fasting diets as a way to improve overall health. And I think, we've got our list below here that you can check out. Please support the channel, be it Patreon, or we have our link to our PayPal there. Those of you who have been supporting and sending over support, it's greatly appreciated. And we continue to work to provide excellent quality information to help you invest and trade better. And so we're committed to that being the case. At any rate, this is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Tschüss German, au revoir French, Lahitro, Hebrew, Khoda Hafez, Farsi, Zdravstvuyte, Russian, Ni hao ma, Chinese, and Namaste, Hindi, G'day, our friends in Australia, Nuff respect, Wak Goodman, and hit us up if interested in SpaceX shares. Have a great day, and bye for now.